Hi, my name is Maninder, and in this video I'm going to be talking about one of the many flaws that are seen in the Canadian criminal justice system. So the flaw that I'm going to be focusing on and talking about in this video, it's regarding unfair sentences. So what that basically is a sentence given to a defendant in a court which is either way too severe, so it's too high, or it's either way too low. So the example I'm going to be using is about a Canadian case which clearly shows how an unfair sentence can be seen as a flaw in the Canadian criminal justice system. Okay, so I'm just going to give a quick summary of the case I'm going to be talking about. It has happened way back in 2001, and it was involving a guy named Dean Robert Zimmerman. He was sentenced to jail for brutally raping, tormenting, and torturing his pregnant wife in an attack that lasted over 48 hours. He not only repeatedly assaulted her, but during this attack he broke her nose and he threatened to cut her unborn baby from her belly. And this attack took place while he was still on parole for an earlier violent rape that he had on a 19-year-old woman. And so after this attack on his wife, Zimmerman only received less than 4 years in jail and was later released on January 1st, 2005. After his release, he committed yet another attack, this time a 9-hour sexual assault which involved a toilet plunger and a 24-year-old Edmonton woman. He pleaded guilty to the sexual assault involving a weapon, and he was only sent away for 40 months in federal prison. The issue with this is that back in 1997, if anybody were to commit rape, they would be averaged around a sentence of 117 months in federal prison, and Zimmerman only received 40 months during 2005. So, in my opinion, I do believe that he did get a low sentence and definitely should have been put away for a longer time. But because of this unfair sentence, he was able to get released from federal prison and sexually assault several women. So you could really see the flaw that's in the Canadian criminal justice system, because somebody like Zimmerman, who had repeatedly sexually assaulted women, was only put away for 40 months. And if he had been put away for longer, I do believe that a lot of the sexual assault could have been prevented. Another example of how unfair sentences are a flaw in the Canadian criminal justice system is one where the sentence that's given to the person is way too high. So this one involves two girls that were 12 years old, and this all happened outside of Canada. It basically talks about the Slender Man, who is a mythical creature that lives in the forest. So this story was told to kids by adults so that it would scare them and they would not stay in the forest, because the Slender Man would follow kids into the forest and would capture them. So when adults would tell this to their kids would get scared and not go in the forest. These two girls believed in the Slender Man, and they believed that what the Slender Man was telling them to do was attack other kids. So they listened and they attacked a 12-year-old girl and stabbed her several times. Fortunately, the girl survived but was almost killed. After the police showed up and took away the two girls that attacked this other girl, the two girls later received a sentence of 60 years in jail. So in my opinion, that's way too high, because 60 years means they're going to be released when they're 72 years old. So that's basically their whole life thrown away in jail simply because they believed in a fictional story. But at the same time, kids are kids and they do believe things very easily. So in my opinion, a consequence should be given, but 60 years is just way too high. And so after this story was released in the newspaper, a lot of people disagreed with the fact that these kids were receiving 60 years in jail. And this is just another example of how unfair sentences are a flaw in the Canadian criminal justice system. This flaw became such a big issue that back in 2010, a poll was created to get the input of Canadians about the sentences that were being given. And when the surveys were handed back, 62% of people who did the surveys also said that they favored the death penalty, and also 62% of people believe that long prison sentences are the best way to reduce crime. So overall, the findings suggested that judges are way too lenient for most Canadians, and that maybe a toughened criminal justice system is exactly what Canada needs. And so to really conclude my video, I believe that taking a look at the case and analyzing it from different perspectives can definitely help prevent unfair sentences, but as of right now, unfair sentences is definitely a flaw in the Canadian criminal justice system and is something that needs to be fixed.